Let us talk a little bit more about the functions that we talked in the previous class. So functions perform a couple of functions. Okay, excuse the pun, but functions perform a couple of functions, one of which is decomposition. Okay, I gave you an example of what decomposition is in the previous class. Let us say you wanted to uh, use square root somewhere in your program. Okay, so you could possibly write the square root code in the program itself, or you could divide the program into two parts. Okay, the program gets divided into two parts. One is your main code, and then you write a function which is what? Square root. Okay, that is what we wrote in the previous class. So what functions do? They allow you to break. So they allow you to break your problem into smaller components. Okay. Another thing that they do, functions do, is something called as abstraction. Does anybody know what abstraction is? Or do you know what abstract is? What is abstract? Have you heard of the word abstract?
Overview.
Yes, sir.
Gist of what you have done.
Oh, that abstract. You're talking about that abstract. I'm not talking about that abstract. I'm talking about something else. Okay, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm talking about something called maybe abstract noun. Okay, I'm talking about that. Okay, not the abstract that is in the beginning of our research paper. Okay. Anyway, that was funny. Yeah. Anybody knows the meaning of the word abstract?
No, sir.
Which cannot be counted as like feeling or emotions. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, usually which is not very tangible. Okay, you can call it as abstract. So similarly, abstraction means so it hides stuff. Okay, so your functions hide stuff. So for example, when I say square root c, okay, I wrote a function. There is a lot of things going on inside this function, but you have no idea what is happening inside. Okay, you know what your input is and what your output is. Okay, that has been given to you, but you do not know what is going on inside. Okay, so it hides stuff. It also enables you to do decomposition in a different manner. Okay, so what you can do is that once you, let us say you have a big problem. Okay, and you divide it into 10 different functions. Okay, function 1, function 2, so on and so forth. You divide it into 10 different components. Okay, and these components use each other. Okay, these components use each other, but the person who is writing the, let us say, and this program, this task has been divided into 10 different people. They do not really have to know. So the let us say a person who is implementing function 2, he does not have to know how function 1 is being implemented, as long as he knows what does he know? What is the name of the function? What are the inputs? And what the output looks like? Okay, so this abstraction also helps in one sense in decomposition. You can divide your problem into smaller components. Okay, is that clear? Sridhar, are you getting the point?
Sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So where was I? So let us move on to some a little more of our code. Can you see the Python Jupyter notebook now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now, before we go here, let me do something. Now let us say I want to know what the function absolute does. Okay, so I can type help abs. What is this going to do? And if I run this, what is going to happen? It tells me that this is giving me help on the built-in function in the absolute, in the modules built-ins. Okay, so that is a built-in function. Okay, so absolute value of x returns the absolute value of the argument. Okay, so absx returns the absolute value of argument. Okay. So we could similarly do print. Okay. If I do help print, what does it tell me? It gives me help on print. Okay. Now you can, so for the functions that you have defined, okay, for the functions that you have defined, how do you give such documentation? This is how you give your documentation. Okay. So what do? You include whatever you want to write for that particular function in triple quotes. Okay. In triple double quotes. Okay. To be more precise. Okay. So you have 3 double quotes on one side and the three double quotes on the other side, and you can include whatever you want to write here. Okay. Let us see if we can press enter, and if it so I am doing this, and then I'm asking for help square root. Okay, so you can also press enter, whatever you want to add between those two lines, between those two triple quotes. Okay, you can put those inside your so this is called as, let me, doc string. Okay, so this is called as doc string. Okay, so let me tell the word. It is doc string. Okay, so a string that does the documentation for this particular function. Okay, so this might be helpful if you are writing, if you are collaborating with many people. It might be helpful to include this in the beginning. Okay, obviously comments are helpful, but the comments are not visible when once you are running the program or once you are using it elsewhere. Okay, comments, you have to go through the whole means you have to go into the code and look at it. Okay, whereas this doc string is available even when you're running the program. Okay, you can use it anytime. Okay, so that is the benefit of including a doc string in your definition of a function. Okay, does anybody have a question about this?
No, sir.
So now let us say yeah, there was one more thing that was a little confusing in the previous discussion that we were doing. So when I was doing something like this, so when I was doing this, you remember that I tried doing this and it didn't work.
Yes, sir.
Okay, once you so if your variable which is not inside that, which is not defined in a particular function, okay, or which is not passed as an argument, if that variable appears on the right hand side, then it's not a big issue. Okay, if it's not if it appears only on the right hand side, then it looks for that particular variable throughout its memory space. Okay, it looks whether that variable is present inside this function. If it's not present, then it is it present in the higher function, or is it present in the main function? Okay, something like that. Okay, so if it's on the right hand side, so that's why this line works. Okay, this line works, z is equal to x. This line works. Why does it work? Because x is present where?
Right hand side of.
Yeah, it is on the right hand side inside the definition of the function. So once it is on the right hand side, it looks for x inside this function. It finds that x is not present, then it looks at the higher hierarchical, so it is going to look in this space. Okay, it is going to look in this space and it will find that x is present over there. But as soon as I put x on the left hand side, immediately that variable becomes confined to that particular function itself. Okay, so if, see, x is not being passed as an argument. Okay, so x is being defined here. Now x has to be inside the part of this function. Okay, it can no longer look up the value of x from outside. X is now in a part of this particular function h. Okay, so if what is going to happen in this particular case? As soon as x is on the left hand side, it immediately becomes part of this function. Now x is trying to become x plus 1, but is x defined inside h?
No.
It is not defined inside h. So therefore it's going to give you an error. Okay, once you put x on the left hand side, it becomes, and x is not an argument that is being passed inside, it becomes a part of that particular function itself. As soon as you put x on the left hand side. On the right hand side, it's not an issue, as is in this case. Even if you don't give this line, it's not an issue, because it will try to look for x in a higher hierarchical space. Okay, and it finds that X, then it is not, it is going to give you that value. Okay, so that's why it was not working in the previous class. I wanted
So in definition of G X, we have provided the value of X. So
what?
you say in definition of function G,
But H cannot access the definition of G, no? H is a
Okay,
different function.
yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody else has a question? So would you like to do another example of recursion, or is it good enough?
So one example.
Okay, so before we do that, let me try.
Sir?
Yeah.
So in that Jupyter notebook,
Yeah.
sir, I just didn't get that X isn't in G also, it is in left, na? And
What?
in H also. Matlab X in G
Yeah.
function,
Yeah.
X is in left. So here also, do we have to define X in the inside the G?
So it is already defined.
Like-
No, X is equal to ABC.
Yes, but it is not given in the bracket of G.
No, it doesn't have to be. You can define own variables inside this. But please understand that in this particular case, what does X mean? The reason you're getting an error over here, it would not be a problem even if you do this. That is not an issue here also. Okay, please understand that. The issue arises from having X is equal to X plus 1 as the first statement. Now, X is no longer can be accessed from, or means you cannot go higher in the hierarchy to find X. You cannot do that anymore because it is on the left hand side now. Now X has to be a part of H somehow, either through either it comes through and the argument of the function, or you define it inside. Okay, since X is not coming as the argument of the function, what is going to happen to this particular statement?
This will give
This will give error because X is now part of H and only H. Okay, it cannot be from outside. Okay, whereas in this case, when we do not have this line, okay, when we do not have this line, what happens in this case?
Achha.
When I say Z is equal to X, it tries to find X in the hierarchy of H. Okay, within the space of H, it tries to find X. It does not find it. Okay, but when X is on the right hand side, it has the freedom to look for X in a higher space. Okay, where higher space in this case is F. Okay, so it can look for X throughout F once X is on the right hand side. Okay, but if X was on the left hand side, then immediately it becomes part of H itself. It cannot look for X in the higher space now anymore. Okay. Is that
my question was like that ki, in the G of function we have X in the left hand side, so here it is considering.
Yeah, but please understand. Here, hold on. Even if I did this, it would not be an issue. Okay, you can do that also. It's not an issue. The problem is what I am doing. I'm saying X is equal to X plus 1. So you look at the right hand side. What is the value of X now? New value of X is equal to X plus 1. Now it is going to look for this X to calculate the value of X. It will look for this value of X. That is the issue. And it does not find that value of X. There is no value of X inside H. That is the issue.
Okay.
That is the issue. That it is not the issue that to define X, you can define anything you want inside this particular function. It's not an issue. That is not the problem. The problem is that the X is equal to X plus 1. The right hand side X is undefined at this point.
Okay, sir.
Okay. For example, if I were to let us say, if I were to write a new variable new v, okay, plus is equal to 1, what is going to happen in this case? I'm saying new variable is equal to new variable plus 1.
It will give error.
It is exactly the same thing that is happening over there. Okay, because X is on the left hand side, immediately it becomes part of H. There is no choice for X to be looked elsewhere. Okay, so as soon as it becomes part of H, this statement becomes invalid because X is not defined before this particular situation. Okay, because here X is appearing on the left hand side. As soon as X appears on the left hand side, it becomes part of H. Okay, and then it starts looking for calculating the value of X plus 1 on the right hand side. Then obviously X plus 1 is not defined there. So that's why you get an error. Okay, it is exactly equivalent to having this line before defining the value of new V. Okay. So let us look at an example of friction, which is, can you see my whiteboard?
Yes, sir.
Palindrome. Can you tell me what a palindrome is? The thing that comes to my mind is dalda for palindrome. It's a palindrome in Hindi, but it's not a palindrome in English. Any idea what a palindrome? So if you look at it from the left or the right, is the same. Okay, that is what a palindrome is. But what is a palindrome in English? Do you have anything in mind? Huh? Any idea of a palindrome in English? Whether you look at it from the left or the right is the same. Nobody?
Civic.
Civic, good. Okay, very good. Thank you. I also did not have anything in my mind. So thank you very much, Mida. Anyway, so we have civic. So how would we go about breaking this down?
By taking a mid value and then
So what do we see? We check whether this is palindrome or not. Okay, but for doing that, what do? We check whether this is palindrome or not, and these two are identical or not. Okay, is that okay? Is that equivalent?
yes, sir.
I check whether my first value and the last value are the same, and I check whether I call a new function again with these three values. Is that okay? सही है या नहीं?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
ठीक है. Then what is the next step? Then I break this down again into two problems. What is the two problems? I'll check whether the two extremes are same or not,
Equivalent.
and then I'll check for palindrome of the remaining things. Now, if this leaves behind one element, then obviously that one element is a palindrome. Okay, it's not an issue. Okay, if it leaves behind 0 elements, I'm not getting any good 4-letter palindromes. Does anybody have an idea? Okay, forget about it. Let us make a new word with a new spelling. Dude. Okay, maybe. Okay, so dude. Okay, some people call dude. Okay, so let us look at this. What is going to happen in this particular case? It is going to call the function. Let us call that function as is palindrome. Okay, so we are going to call the function is palindrome with what as the input? D over D as the input. Okay, and then I'm going to divide this into two parts. This problem, what are the two parts? I'm going to check whether D and D are same.
Equivalent.
Okay, and I'm going to call this function is palindrome again with the inputs as O. Okay, what is going to happen in this case? Now this gets divided into two parts. Okay, what are the two parts?
O
I
and
check whether O and O are equivalent, and the remaining, what is the remaining thing?
0.
It's an empty set. Okay, so I'm going to check whether is palindrome empty set is palindrome. So you're going to say yes. Okay, and whether these two are equivalent or not. Okay, so that is the basic concept of this particular recursion. Okay, so we are going to divide the whole problem into two parts. Okay, the first part is removing element from the left. Okay, the leftmost element and the rightmost element is removed, and then we check for the remaining and when we check whether the elements that we have removed are they equal or not. If they are equal, and we check whether this is a palindrome or not. Okay, let us try writing a code for this. So let us define a string s is equal to, yeah, we'll take civic. Okay. Yeah. But anyway, first we have to define the function. So define is palindrome. What are the inputs? Let us say string s is the input. What do we have next? If len, what does len is give you? Length of s is equal to 0 or length of s is equal to 1, then what is the answer? What should I give you? What should I return? Tell me. I'm checking whether it's a palindrome or not. So what should I check? What should I return? Sridhar, what kind of value should I return?
So it is palindrome.
It is palindrome, but what is a reasonable value for this function?
One.
1 or 0 or true or
Or
false?
true,
True or
true.
false. Okay, so
Mhm.
let us use a Boolean English sort of. But there is one more thing that I forgot to do before this. Let us convert this into small letters. Okay, so let us convert this into small letters. So the way to do that is you can use this function. Okay, so s dot, so s is equal to s dot lower bracket closed. Okay, what is this going to do? It is going to convert any capital letters into small letters. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay,
Sir,
because
sir,
yeah,
like, why should we convert, sir? Like, if it is in,
because please understand that the ways to your computer stores information, capital C is not the same as small c. So when you're going to do the comparisons, then it will give you an issue. Okay.
okay, sir.
And it is not as intelligent as human beings to be able to do that. To understand that this is small and this is capital. Okay. Human beings are really, really smart. Okay. So next thing we do is what? Else, what do we do? What do we do? Return. What do we
We
return?
can compare.
What do we return? Let us check for a couple of things. What are you going to check for? They're going to check whether the first element of S is equal
First
to
equal to
Last element of
last
it.
last element of S. How do we check for that? S0 is equal to S minus 1.
-1.
ठीक है?
Mhm.
Okay. And what else do we check? And is palindrome what?
Of palindrome.
1, 2,
1 -2.
-2 or
So 0.
-1? Huh? Or -1, because the last value is not included, no? You remember?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
it is my biggest peeve, biggest
Yes, sir.
complaint from Python. Okay, that the way it indexes is really horrible, in my opinion. Okay, but it is the way it is, so we have to deal with it. Okay, so it should. So what am I doing here? I'm checking. So I'm going to return a value true. Oh, I made a mistake here. There should be an S here. Okay. So it is going to return a value true if and only if these two conditions are met. First condition is that the first value of S is equal to the last value of S. I'm checking by that. And also the remaining part of S is also a palindrome.
Palindrome.
Okay. Okay, is that all right?
Sir.
Okay. So let us define this. This has gotten defined. Now, what else do? We check is palindrome civic. Enter. Oh, true. What about civic? The subject civics. What do you expect?
False.
False. Okay. It is working fine. So it really reduces your code quite significantly, but obviously it has a performance penalty because your function gets called again and again. Okay, so if you were to do this iteratively, so this is your homework exercise, everybody. Okay, do this iteratively. Okay. So homework exercise is to do this iteratively, not recursively. I have done recursively over here. Your homework exercise is to do this iteratively. Okay. This is a good hint of how to do this iteratively. Okay. So to check for this condition. Keep going until you have no more letters remaining. So let us go back to the previous code that I was talking about. Where is it? Where is it? Here it is. Okay. Now let us define a new variable. Okay, let us call this as global. Okay, so what is this global? So what is this global going to do? It is
We'll
going
make
to
global
X
X
global. Okay,
value.
the value of X will be present everywhere. Okay, that is the thing. Now let us say if I do that over here. Now before I can use the global, I have to call global. Okay, so this is how I call global first inside this particular function. Okay, so let us, maybe it is working fine. So now I have defined this. Now what do I expect? What is going to happen in this case? It's going to work fine.
Of X will be
Oh no, I made a mistake again. I have to define global. Okay, I just define it. Global X, and then X is equal to, let us say, 8. Okay, now did this give an error? It no longer gave an error because X is now a global function, global variable. Okay, so whenever I want to call X inside a particular function, then I have to define the global X again over there. Okay, so let us try something. Let us remove this. What do I expect is going to happen in this case? Does it work? No, it does not, because even though X is globally defined, but it is not defined globally inside the context of this particular H. Okay, so it has to be told to this particular H that please take the value of X, which is what?
global.
Which is global. Okay, so you have to do this now. It will not give you an error. Okay.
It will remain global for H only. Like G, it is still giving ABC.
Yeah, it will not be global for G. Okay, so it will be global only in the context of that particular function. Okay, therefore I have to define global here as well as here. Okay, if I remove this global, in this case it will not be a problem because it is already a part of that. But let me remove this from here. Let me remove this from here. How do I do that? Restart. Okay. Now all the variables are gone. Okay. Now if I try calling this, obviously this function f itself is not defined, but let me do this. Okay. So since x is a part of the global function itself, it's not an issue here. Okay, do you understand what I mean? This itself is your global. Do you understand? Everything outside the function is part of the global variables. Okay, so it's already global, so I probably don't need to define that over here. But let me do something. Let me define a global x here. Okay, what is going to happen in this case? What do you expect x is going to be now?
9.
No, what about x for G? Is it going to change the value there? Name x is a parameter. Oh, it's already a parameter, so it cannot. Okay, that's fine. I was trying to show something, but that's fine. Do you understand the basic concept of global? We can go into the nitty-gritty later on. Okay, it's not a very really important thing. The place where global might be useful is to find how many functions. So how many times is this function being called? Okay, that might be a good place to so let us say, so global calls to function. Okay, and calls to function is equal to 0. Okay, now let us say if I call global calls to function here, there has to be a space here. Okay, and calls to function plus is equal to 1. What is going to happen in this case?
Calls to function will become 1.
So calls to function is going to be added every time. What happens every time is palindrome is called, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if I do this, calls to function is not defined. What do you mean? Do I have to? Okay, let us remove this.
So we have to give the value of calls to function. Do we have to?
Where?
Like calls to function, do we have to assign some value first?
I have assigned the value here. Okay, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, that's a mistake. You're right. Let me first. Yeah. So now print calls to function. How many times is it being called? 1. Can you explain why it is being called only once? Obviously, the result is the answer is false. But why is it being called only once? Sridhar, any idea? Why is it being called only once?
It is outside it.
Huh?
It is
It will
outside
check
it.
only one condition.
So it will.
C compared to S.
Please understand that in these cases, when you have an and over here, it only calculates the first one. Okay, so if the first one itself is false, then there is no use of calculating this, no, because false and anything is all going to be false.
false.
Okay, so it only looks for this. Okay, so it never even reaches the statement. Okay, so if you look at what happens in this particular case, we call is palindrome civics. Okay, it compares C to S. Okay, it compares, obviously length of S is not 0 or 1, length of S is in this case 6. Okay, so it compares C to S. Okay, and what happens in that case? It is
False.
false. So it does not even go here. So only once is this function being called. Okay, and what about I'll give you a couple of minutes. If I call civic, okay, how many times do you think this function is going to get called? I'll give you one minute to please analyze this. Please look at. Let me also analyze it.
3 times.
Yeah, I gave 1 minute to everybody, no? So please let everybody think about it. Everybody done?
Yes, sir. So 3.
Well, let me do one more thing so that it becomes a little more clear. Let me say I print S. Okay, I also do that. Then it will make a little more sense. Okay. So what happens in this case? First is it is being called for civic.
Civic.
Okay. Second time it is going to be called for IVI. And the third time it is going to be called for V.
V.
When it is going called for V, then it has the answer, which is true. Okay, so it goes back to IVI. Then it gives back the value of that to, then it compares I and does that. Okay, it keeps on going this way. Okay. So Sridhar, did you get
Yes,
it?
sir.
Okay. Okay. So we have done palindrome, global functions. Now let us talk about something which is modules. Save as. Download as. Okay. Have you used any text editor like Notepad? Or Notepad is not really a very good text editor, but it's workable. So let me show you something here, because so this is my Python directory. Okay. Let me create a new file here. Let me show it to you once. Where is it? Python scripts. Yeah. Can you see my Python scripts now? The folder?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm going to create a new file. Okay, new text document. Obviously, it will not be a text document, but I'll call it, let us say, I'll use the same name and example as the book. Okay, circle.py. So py stands for Python. Okay, so the Python scripts, Python programs are usually called as scripts. So Python is written with the files which contain Python's code are given the extension py. Okay, so that is what I have done here. Okay, now I use a different editor, but that's all right. You can use whatever editor you want. So I'm going to use VI. So I'm going to include that as well in my share. So can you see my VI? Can you see my editor now?
Yes, sir.
So
Sir.
let us define that as 3.14159. So I'm just copying from the book and define area, radius, ये क्या हो रहा है भाई? Okay, now I get it. So I'm defining a new function area as a function of radius. Okay, what will that be? What should it return? Huh?
Pi r square.
Pi star radius to the power 2. Is that all right?
Yes.
Okay, so I define another function. Let us say circumference, which is again a function of radius. What is that?
2 pi r.
What is it going to return? Return 2 star 5 star radius. Okay, let us say I define these two functions. When I save this file, okay, this file has been saved. Now let us try doing something there. Where is my, yeah. So it is in the same directory. Okay, please understand that it is in the same directory where my notebook is situated. Okay, so it was in Python scripts. This was my notebook is situated in this particular directory, and my that file, the Python file, is also in the same directory. Okay, so this is good at chapter 4 IPy. IPynb is your Jupyter notebooks extension, and circle.py is your Python file. Okay, let us see if it works. Import circle. Does it work? Yes, it works. Okay, now I have imported circle. Okay, now if I let us say if I say what print pi. I define it in circle. What is going to happen? It is going to give me an error because pi is not defined over here. But if I do circle.py, what happens in this case? It goes to, so this is a module. Okay, so this is a module. Okay, we already talked about a module in the previous class. I had called it a library, but the more specific more specific or the correct term for that is a module. Okay, so so in this case, what is the module that I am importing? The name of that module is circle. Okay, what is the module that we imported in the previous class? What was the name of the module? Sridhar, do you remember?
No.
Don't remember time?
Yes.
Now you remember? If I do this, what is going to happen? It is going to give me the value of pi, which is stored inside circle. Okay, similarly you could do circle dot area. Okay, if I do 1, what do you expect is going to be the answer? What do you expect is going to be the answer?
Pi.
Pi
Pi.
3.1459. Okay, and if instead of area, if I give circumference, it is going to be 2 pi. Is that all right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you can define, so this also increases your readability of your program. Okay, so you can divide your whole program into various modules. Okay, where your definitions, so modules usually contain statements and definitions. Okay, so please understand that if any statements are present, okay, can you look at any statements that are present in your in this particular module? Is there any statement present over here?
No, sir.
Yeah, there is. This is a statement.
Pi.
Pi is equal to 3.1459159. Okay, this is a statement. Okay, so this statement is run only once. Okay, please understand that any statements that are present over there, everything is only run only once in one sense. Okay, these statements are run only once. Okay, and definitions, obviously you need to define them only once. Okay, so let us do one more thing. Let us try changing the name. Yeah.
Sir, can we, matlab here it is written circle.py format, na? Can we write in txt format? Will that
No,
be also
it
considered?
won't work. It has to be a Python file extension.
Achha.
Obviously, it is not going to accept that because whenever you say import circle, it looks for a file with the name circle.py automatically.
Okay.
Circle.txt is a completely separate file from circle.py. Okay, for the operating system as well as for your Python interpreter. Okay, so when I say import circle, it looks for a file named circle.py. Okay.
Okay.
So now let us say I incorrectly change this definition to something else. Let us call this as 2 pi r square. Let us say I change my radius to this. Okay, I've saved this file. Okay, now let us try doing this again. Okay, now what is the definition of my area? 2 pi r square, which is incorrect. I'm telling you it is incorrect, but I just changed it to show something. Okay, and if I run this, what do you expect your answer to be?
2 pi.
So 2 pi.
2 pi. Let us see. No, why? Because it only imports your file once. Okay, it does not import it again. If you change the file name, it is not going to import it again. Now let us try if we import it. So please see the order, the sequence of execution is given a particular number in this in Jupyter. Okay, so 13 was executed long time back before 18. Okay, so now I'm going to execute this once more. Okay, now it is 19. This has been executed after this, after I have made all the changes. Now let us see if anything happens. No, again it did not happen. Why? Any idea?
It does not.
So even if you give import 100 times, it is going to import it only once. Okay, once it has been imported into the memory, it no longer gets imported again. Okay, so what you have to do, you have to restart your kernel. Okay, so if I restart my kernel, what is going to happen? Now all the variables have been removed from the memory. Okay, everything from the memory has been removed and the interpreter has been restarted. Now if I import again, please see what has happened to this. Obviously everything has gone from the memory, so this becomes 1 again. And now if I do, what do you expect now?
2 pi.
2 pi. Okay, is that okay? So please understand that if you make any changes or if you import your library again and again, nothing is going, or your module again and again, nothing is going to happen. It only imports it once per session. So you have to restart your session by going from kernel, then restart. Okay. Now, what I just showed you something that every time so this is getting stored in your notebook. Okay, but once if I do this kernel restart and clear output, then what happens? It is going to right now, if you look at it, all the outputs are still here. Even if I restart, all the outputs stay where they are. So these are your outputs. Okay, they stay where they are, nothing happens. But you can also do something here, restart and clear output. So what is going to happen?
All the output in the.
All the outputs are gone. Okay, so that is the case in most cases. So whatever we have done till now is not really very useful from a functional point of view, because where is the data stored? Any outputs or anything is stored where? In the RAM. Okay, if your Jupyter crashes or your Python interpreter crashes, what is going to happen to all the calculations that you have done? They will be gone. They will be gone forever. Okay, so we want you might have heard of the term what volatile and non-volatile memory. So your RAM, whatever is happening in Python in this interpreter is being stored in the volatile memory. Everything is gone as soon as the power is removed or your interpreter is closed or whatever happens. Okay, so you want a way to store this data, whatever you are outputting. Okay, you might want to put it in a permanent storage format. Okay, so you might want to write a file. Okay, isn't it? Sometimes you might want to write a file so that you have the data forever. Okay, or as long as you have that file. Okay, so let us start with something called as file handling. Okay, almost every programming language has its own idiosyncrasies about file handling. So when I say file handling, I mean that my Python program is going to write or read files from the operating system. Okay, so let us say I open a new file. Okay, let us say file1 is equal to, okay, open. So open is for opening a file. Okay, and let us say tag is fine. Tag.txt. Okay, you can have any extension that you want, but it is going to be a text file. Okay, it is going to output a text file. Okay, you can put any extension that you want, but it's going to be a text file. You can open it in Notepad or any other text editor. Okay, and what do I want to do here? I want to write something to it. Okay, so I'm going to tell my interpreter Python to do what? To open this file with the attribute write. Okay, so what is write? What does write W tell me? It is going. This file is being opened for what? Writing. Okay. So, and what is the file one? So file one is called as, so file one in this case is the file handle. Okay. So for rest of the program, this particular file is being, so it is like a variable. Okay. It's like a variable for the file. Okay. Variable name for the file. Okay. You can think of it this way. Okay. So let us say for I in range 4. Okay. File on dot write I. Okay, what does this do? Anybody? Can you guess? What is this going to do? So I have started a loop with I. Okay, from range from 0 to 3. Okay, and so file one dot write. What is this going to do?
So write 4 times.
Write what? 4 times. What is it going to write? I. Okay, it is going to write I in the file. Okay, and then finally we do file one dot close. Okay, now what happens in this case? Yeah, I expected that. You can't write non-string values. You have to write a string inside a file. So what do we do here? Let's convert it into string. Okay. So in this case, this time the file has been written. Let us look at our directory again. Where is my directory? It gets stored in the same. So tech.txt has been written. If I open this, edit with existing VIM, what happens in this case? You get a 0, 1, 2, and 3. So it is very different from the print statement. What happened in print statement? Now, if I were to at the same time also give a print statement, print I, or to be more precise, let us say print string I. Okay, I'm printing the same thing, and I'm also writing it in that particular file. Okay. Or anyway, then what happens in this case? What is happening in here?
It is writing in column.
It is writing on different lines. So please understand that print automatically adds a new line. Okay, so once we run print, it automatically adds a new line to it. Okay, so if I do print string I again, what is going to happen? It prints everything is being printed in a new line. So after the print statement is completed, it goes to a new line again. Okay, so it keeps on happening in this manner. But if you look at your original the file that this generates, what happens in that case?
It is writing same line.
It is writing on the same line. So it automatically does not automatically add a new line character to it. Is that okay?
Sure.
So can you see this? Probably not. Yeah. Okay. So it does not add a new line to it on its own. Okay, you have to specifically tell it to add a new line. And what is a new line character? If you wanted to write these in different lines, And do you know what the new line character is? If you wanted to add a new line to it,
Backslash n.
huh?
Slash.
You are going to-
Backslash.
so backslash n. Okay. So what is this going to do? So what does plus do? What is this plus doing? It is concatenating.
Adding.
Okay, concatenate, not adding, concatenating. Okay, concatenation. So it is physically putting those two things together. Okay, so what are the two things here? So in the first step, when I is equal to 0, then it is going to concatenate 0 and the character backslash n. What does character backslash n mean? It's a new line character. So if I do this, what happens in this case if I run this? So my file is changed. Oh. Yeah. So now can you look at the output?
Yes, sir.
We have 0, 1, 2, and 3 in different lines. Okay. Now let us say if you wanted, obviously it's a good idea, good thing that you can write a file. But now let us say I wanted to add 5 more numbers to this particular file. Okay. If I wanted to add 5 more numbers to this file, how would I do that? So instead of writing, first thing that we are going to do is that we are going to change the mode from write. So whenever we say write, please understand that even if a file exists previously, what is it going to do? It is going to overwrite that file completely. Okay, it is going to delete the previous file and create a new file with the name text.txt. Okay, but if I give another attribute instead of W, if I give an A, what does A stand for? Any idea?
No, sir.
Append. Okay, A stands for append. Append. Do you know what append is?
It's adding a string in the list.
Yeah, but English append. Let us define. Append. Add something to the end of a document. Okay, so we are adding something at the end. Okay, so if I say range 4 to 10. Okay, now if I run this program, what is going to happen? What is going to happen in this case? Sridhar?
To 10.
Huh? I can't hear you. Still can't. Still can't. Can you repeat? Can you repeat again?
Like it will give 0, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, those exist in the file already. Okay, so those are going to be still there. Okay, what else is it going to do? It is going to add 4 to 9. Okay, please remember range. Okay, stupid Python. I always call this stupid, but it is what it is. Okay, maybe there is a good logic to it, but I don't want to listen to that logic. I find it stupid. Anyway, so let us run this and see what happens. Okay, it has run. Now let us look at the file. Let us load the file. Does it happen? Does it do what I just said it would do?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So similarly, you could possibly do what? Let us say instead of appending, now we want to, obviously we want to sometimes read from files also. Okay, because most of your data sets, like if you want to do the grading for students, okay, let's say you want to write a program to do automatic grading for students. Okay, you have the marks of various components of the course and you want to add those components and assign a grade based on some statistical modeling. Okay, then you will have, let us say that data is present in Excel format. Okay, so Excel can be imported in Python using various libraries, but the most commonly used format is called as CSV. Okay, I'll just use my .csv. Does anybody know what CSV is?
Comma separated variable.
Yeah, comma separated, not variable but values. Okay,
Okay.
so it's a CSV format. It is a text file. Okay, you can open it in a text editor. Excel can also open it, but most of the times your data is in CSV format, and because it contains various columns which are separated by commas. Okay, in this case we are using this text file only. Okay, instead of appending, now I'm going to read. Any idea what attribute or what
Huh?
the argument? Okay, in Python we use argument. So instead of a, the string a, which argument will I use now?
R.
R.
R. Okay, so now instead of doing this in file 1, okay, if I do print I, what is going to happen? Any idea
Read-
what is going to happen?
Read from file from 0 to 9.
It is going to read from file line by line. Okay, each line gets read first. Okay, gets read. So it will read the line. So at the first, so let me also say print iteration I. Okay, so let us run this. So iteration 0, output is 0. Iteration 1, output is 1. So please understand that this 0 is being generated by your code. Okay, and what is this 0 coming from?
Print
This
file.
is coming from
File.
the
from
file. Okay,
Right.
so if I were to say type I, okay, comma type. Oh no, I'm incorrect. In this case, both of them are I. No, I made a mistake. So I forgot about how these iteration variables work in Python. This is the actual value of, so I was mistaken. Okay, so please do not consider that. So did everybody get what I just said or no? It works a little bit differently.
Iteration is
Yeah,
same.
the iteration variable works a little bit differently in Python. In this case, the iteration variable contains the exact value that is being written in the file. So what do you expect type I to be? Sridhar, what do you expect type I to be? So type tells you what kind of variable it is. So what do you think?
Integer.
Integer, sure?
String.
No, it will be a string because files can only, we can only write strings in files and we can only read strings from files. Okay, so please see, it is a string. Okay, now if let us say I define j is equal to 0. Okay, j is equal to j plus I. What do you expect? What do you think is going to happen in this case? Any idea?
J will be 10.
J will be 10? No, that is definitely not correct. J will not be 10.
It is a string, na? So 1, 1, 1, 2,
Well, let us see what happens.
1, 2, 3.
You can't do an add between an integer and a string. Okay, because what? I is a
String.
string. Okay, and j is an integer.
Integer.
So if you wanted to add the first 9 numbers, okay, how would you do that? You'll have to convert this into an integer. Okay, is that all right? Is the sum of first 9 numbers 45? n into n plus 1 by 2. So n is 9. 9 plus 1 is 10 by 2. 9 times 5 is
45.
45. Okay. Is that all right? So we'll continue. So that is all for today. Let me